Hi, friends. Today we are going to talk about parenting patterns. We all fall into different parenting patterns. A lot of that is based on how we were parented as children. So, those parenting patterns can be generational. It's what we learned, right? It's behaviors that we observed, that we were exposed to, and so we learned them. Now, some of us, look back on the way we were parented and we want to rebel against the way we were parented because we really don't agree with it. Some of us, want to parent in a lot of the ways that we learned how to parent. No matter what we consciously choose and the mode and the method that we want to parent from, that we decided we'd like to parent from, what's really important to understand is that about 90 to 95% of the way that we parent is actually unconscious. The way that we react to challenging situations with our children, to different situations that come up in our lives, 90 to 95% of the way that we react, the way that we handle how we're triggered is actually coming from our subconscious. So it's not even something that we can rationally decide to do in a moment of challenge with our children. A lot of the way that we parent, the way that we approach different challenges and situations is actually coming from, like I said, from our subconscious, from what we have learned. And a lot of it we don't even realize is there. So we've all grown up with what we call a generational parenting pattern. Okay. And within a parenting pattern. Now, the way that we choose to parent leads to our communication with our children. It can either lead to connected communication with our children, or it can lead to disconnected communication with our children. Connected communication means that I have cooperation, I have trust, I have mutual respect with my children. They're listening to me a good amount of the time. Children will never always listen, and that's okay. But I find that they're respectful of the boundaries that are in place in our home for the most part. They're doing what they're supposed to be doing. We're cooperating with each other. We have this connection within us. Disconnected communication will look like a lot of yelling, a lot of frustration and anger, a lot of us and our children spilling our energy and feelings onto other people, right? Not knowing how to communicate what we want, not knowing how to listen, not respecting or having boundaries in the home. This is what disconnected communication looks like. So we can have both. We can have moments of connected communication. We can have moments of disconnected communication. For those moments of disconnected communication, they're happening because many of us were not taught how to create connected communication, how to learn how to really communicate and connect with our children. Now, in conscious parenting, what we teach, what we believe, what we want to strive for is this understanding that a relationship with our children is more important than our having control over our children's behaviors. So when we talk about connected communication, if your child is respecting boundaries, is doing what they're supposed to do because they're afraid, because we have figured out how to manipulate the situation to get them to do what we want, right? Then our child may be obeying us, but they're not necessarily actually connected with us. What we strive for is not just to have children that are respecting the boundaries, that are listening, that are doing what they're supposed to do, but they're doing all of those things because we have a deep relationship with our children that's built on mutual respect, cooperation, connection, but not on fear or control. And we will understand today the difference between the two, how we can start to then create a connected, communicative relationship with our child that is based in real connection, not in fear or dominance. Why do we want to do that, right? Why do we want to break these parenting patterns? A lot of us, maybe we were good children or we did what we're supposed to do, but not because we truly respected our parents, because we were afraid, because we were people pleasers. We wanted everyone around us to love us, right? To say, oh, what a good child. he or she is because we were afraid of the consequences if we didn't. There can be so many other reasons. But if you don't look back at your childhood and say, yes, I was connected and communicated and I did well in school because I knew it was truly what was best for me. Because, right, and it came from a really happy and full place, then chances are there was some disconnected communication there, disconnected connection there, not real connection. So when we want to create that communicative and connected relationship with our children, we want to do it from a place where we're empowering our child, where we're really growing a long lasting relationship, where our child is growing, not just doing what we tell them to do. One thing that I really believe is that we don't want our children to do what authority tells them to do, because they may find themselves in so many places as children, young adults, and even full adults where authority is telling them to do something that they don't believe in. It's not part of their value system. And they're going to feel like, I have to do it to be a good girl or a good boy, right? That little inner child will come out and say, I'm fearful to do something wrong. What if they don't like me? We don't want to raise our children like that. We want our children to think for themselves. So how do we do that? Right? By teaching them right now as children that within their relationship with parents, our job is not to control them, is not to instill fear in them. It's to empower them to cooperate, empower them to connect, empower them to be respectful with us and with others around us. So we talk in conscious parenting about two different parenting patterns. There's the power pattern and there's the empowerment pattern. The power pattern looks like, and we'll go into it deeper, but is essentially us as parents wanting to control our child, just get them to do what we want them to, when we want them to, no matter what the tactic is. And the empowerment pattern is we get our child to do what we want, when we want them to, for the most part, but they feel empowered to do it. They don't feel bad about themselves. It doesn't diminish them. It doesn't make them feel like somebody is, sitting on top of them like a giant and now they're fearful if they don't. It's because they want to. It's because they understand why they should, right? Which leads to adults who are empowered and living in their power. So we want to create that kind of relationship with our children because we want to establish a long-lasting relationship with our kids. We want our children to feel safe. We want them to come to us when they're going through something in their life. So many situations arise in a child's life, no matter what their age is, right? What if your child always felt safe to come talk to you about anything? That's what we want, right? We want to model empowerment. We want to show our children what it looks like for an adult, for a person to feel good about themselves, to be empowered, to be living in their power, living in their truth, living in their value system, and still able to get along with people around them. Right? That's the true basis for living a happy and fulfilled life and a productive life, when we feel empowered. When we live within this empowerment pattern where we're connected with our children, we actually can bring an energy of peace into our home. We don't have to have those power struggles that we endure through. We don't have to battle it out. They just become conversations, right? We get to talk with our kids rather than yell at them or threaten them. We get to talk with them. We get to the space where we can listen to them without being triggered and find a common ground, right? Find a way that we can all be happy. Now, when we're able to do this as parents, we're also setting the stage, which is so cool, for our child to develop a high level of emotional intelligence, right? We want our children to be emotionally aware, to be able to manage their emotions and regulate their emotions and connect and communicate with people around them. And that's what we want to teach them. Most of us want our child to grow up to be like that mean boss, right? That overpowering person who just, through trying to dominate everyone else around them, gets what they want. We want them to grow up to be people who know how to communicate and cooperate and respect the people around them and be leaders that know how to empower other people. But in order to do that, then we have to create that space for our children as well. This is how they learn how to do it, right? So the question is, are you more interested in having control over your children, or are you more interested in creating a relationship with your child? And that's a really important question to ask ourselves as parents, because a lot of times we think we want to have this connected relationship, but when it comes down to it, and we're honest with ourselves, no, I really just want my child to do what I want when I want them to. But if we do, we're not building that relationship of of respect and trust. So we can't be surprised when our child isn't cooperating with us or doesn't trust us or doesn't come to us when they have something that's going on with them, right? Our children need to feel deeply heard. They need to feel that we are present with them. They don't want to feel controlled or managed because no human being does. But when we're able to create this neutral space as a parent to be with them without judgment, then we create a space where our children know how to open up to us and to share with us and make sure that we are a part of their lives. So today, what we're going to focus on are the two main generational parenting patterns. Okay. And reflect on where these patterns are coming up in our relationship with our children so that we can start to notice them and then learn how to transform them. Sound good? I'm excited about it. So, the first one we'll talk about first is the power pattern. Okay. The power pattern means I want to have a dominant relationship with my child. I want to control them. It's also a conditional relationship. It's based on something outside of love and connection, right? It looks like a parent telling their child, you need to do what I say. What I say goes. You don't have a voice. Your feelings and needs do not matter. They don't have to make sense, right? Now, that sounds really harsh, but there's a lot of really simple ways that we actually do that. And we probably don't even realize that we're doing it, right? It's a parent basically belittling, shaming, comparing children with others around them, right? Or just shaming or belittling or embarrassing their children. It's when we use manipulation, and manipulation includes bribing, it includes threats, it includes rewards, and it includes punishments. Punishments can be physical, they can be, or they can be other sorts of punishments when we take things away from our children. Threatening means, if you don't do what I say, then I have the control and I will take something away from you. So you have to do what I say. Whatever I say goes. So I know it sounds really harsh, right? The power pattern exists everywhere in our lives. It exists in the school systems. It exists in law enforcement. It exists in government. It exists anywhere where a person tries to exert control and power over someone else to get them to do what we want them to do. Sometimes it works in the short term. We can get our children to obey, but usually we'll pay the price in the long term. Because at some point they may not be scared of us anymore. They will become older and wiser, and they won't need any of the things that we're threatening to take away from them. But even more so, then, we're not really building a relationship where we are connected with our children, and we get locked into struggles with them where we each want to prove that we are powerful. We each want to prove that we have a voice and that what we say matters, right? But how cool would it be if we could already have a pre-existing relationship where we know that both of our voices matter? So just to get into the power pattern a little bit more, there are a few properties of the power pattern, okay? The power pattern is based on control. As a parent, I am interested in controlling or stopping my child's behavior more than I am interested in creating a connection with my child. So we use control to parent over our child. And control is something that I think inherently a lot of us want to have in our life. It's very hard to lose control over anything, and especially our children, because we really believe that we know what's best for them. When we try to control them, right, that means our child is tantruming in public and we say, okay, stop tantruming. I'll give you whatever you want. That's trying to gain the control back, right? Or if you don't stop crying, I will take this away from you. Rather than looking at our child and saying, oh, they're crying. They must be feeling something deeply. Let me try to help them, right? Like, how can I help them to understand what they're feeling? How can I help them to unpack it? How can I help figure out how they can learn to pull themselves out of that deep feeling? But a lot of us just look to, how can I regain control over the situation or my child? Another property of the power pattern is having conditions for our love for them, right? Where a child feels like they need to behave in a certain way to gain their parents' love. And if they don't behave that way, then they won't be loved. And so the child is always feeling like they have to prove themselves or they have to earn their parents' love. So when they misbehave, it means, oh no, my parent won't love me. Or I did badly on a test. Oh no, my parent won't love me. Or I made that same mistake again. Oh my goodness, my parent won't love me anymore. Another part of the power pattern is the no questions, which we said before, right? You have to do what I say because I'm the parent and I know what's best. No rhyme or reason. The parent always wins. I once heard a mom tell her little daughter, you know, you see, mommy always wins. What an intense thing for a mother to say to their child. And she didn't mean it in a bad way. Oh my goodness, we all say all of these things so many times. And we're not here to judge, right? We're here to really look inside and ask ourselves all the time when we're in when we're in a moment of what feels like a power struggle with our child, how am I going to, create communication in this moment, right? Rather than saying, you do what I say because I'm the parent and I know best. Well, we are parents and we might know more than our child does, but it does not mean that we always know best. I make tons of mistakes as a parent. And, I never want my child to feel like they're the loser at my hands, because then they won't really want to be around me. They won't trust me if they always feel like the loser. So it's so important to get to the place where we are actually communicating and explaining. Now, of course, in a moment that is a safety related issue, then we want our child to just, jump and listen to us. If they're in the wrong, they're crossing the wrong way of the street, we might panic and say, just do what I want. But I'll be honest with you, just do what I'm telling you to, right? But I'll be honest that when you have a relationship built on communication and trust, and there is like an emergency moment like that, your child is going to just listen to you because they trust that that you're doing it for a reason. It's not something that they're just used to, and they don't feel like they have a voice. We want our children to have a voice. And when we have the no questions asked policy in our home, our children lose their voice. They lose their free will. They lose their the ability to believe that their voice has meaning and has power. And that's never the beginning of anything so good. So the no questions asked, it's part of the parenting from a place of, I want to gain power over my children. Another point of that is respect based in fear. When our children respect us, so they do what we say, but it's not because they really trust us. It's because they're afraid of us. They're afraid of our reaction. They're afraid they won't love us. They're afraid that something will get taken away from them. It's fear. It's fear-based. They have an emotion of fear that comes up when they're being asked to do something. And then as parents, we also have this thing, or we may have been parented in this way, where there's indirect communication, right? Indirect communication are bribes, manipulations, punishments, threats, rewards, shame, or guilt, right? Where I don't have the patience, the time, the energy to explain this to you. I need you to do what I want you to do right now. So I'm going to figure out a way to just get it done. And, if we're thinking about a child, right, who we're telling them, if you do your homework, I'll buy you something. Or, a smaller child, if you stop crying, I'll give you a piece of candy. It's like the child is like, well, I really want that candy, but I have all these deep feelings, but I really want that candy. So we're kind of putting their back up against the wall, right? We're not really giving them any free will or choice in that moment. We're kind of forcing them into the situation because the candy seems really, really good to them. For an older child, right? That toy, or I don't know, the new sneakers seem really, really good. So I'm just going to do it because I want those new sneakers, but it's really going against my value system. That's indirect communication. And that's a way that we gain power over our children without building real connection. Now, what's the empowerment pattern, right? What does it mean to have a conscious, connected relationship built on trust and mutual respect with our children? What does that look like, right? It looks like a parent treating children kindly, with respect, communicating what's going on, not just telling them what to do, right? It looks like a parent who understands that children behave in a certain way or express their emotions because they have a need that needs to be met, or they have maybe a limiting belief system, something that's a story that they're telling themselves, something that's going on inside of their heads, right? That's keeping them, locked into this challenging situation or position or emotions. It's understanding that there's so much more beneath the surface, right? The empowerment pattern allows children to live without coercion, without fear, without threats, without hurt. It's acknowledging and appreciating who the child is and what they have to offer, right? Acknowledging and appreciating who they are as a person, all their strengths, but also the challenges that they have. Don't want to call them weaknesses because they're not weaknesses, right? But the things that we don't necessarily meet eye to eye on, or the challenges that they have in their life, we celebrate them anyway, right? And we feel with them and we validate them and we offer them empathy, and we're really here to listen to them. The empowerment pattern is really creating a relationship with our children. And this is how we create a long lasting relationship with them, right? We as parents, by the way, will feel empowered and we'll feel awesome because we'll feel that connectedness with our children and we'll feel like we know what we're doing. We're not grasping for ways outside of ourselves to control what's going on with our children. We're actually listening to ourselves, and we're actually using, we're connecting and tapping into our own souls, our own intuition, our own voices in order to communicate with our kids. There's no power struggle. We understand and we seek to understand, right? We are actively listening to our children, and that really creates this space where we can have a real long lasting relationship with our child. But again, also feel really empowered as parents, knowing that we're doing this and we're building our children from the inside. We're helping them gain their voice. We're helping them understand that their opinions are important. We're helping them build their own value systems and learn how to cooperate and communicate with people around them. So an empowered relationship is built off of this idea that everyone has a voice. I trust you, child. You are whole. You are complete. You are perfect as you are, right? And let's work together not to compromise, because I think that sometimes when we compromise, we also feel like we're losing. But how can we all feel like winners in any given moment, in any given situation? So the empowered relationship is based off of unconditional love. We spoke about creating conditions to earning love. It's unconditional love. I love you no matter what. I love you when you tantrum. I love you when you scream. I love you when you do badly in school. And making it clear, because a lot of times as parents, yes, at the end of the day, we love our child no matter what they're doing, but we don't show it. We don't show it. And it's very easy for a child to question whether my parent really loves me in this really intense moment, because they're not acting like it. When they scream or threaten me, they don't care what I have to say. That means they don't love me. So much as we never know what love is equated to in a child's mind. And so we have to be really cognizant that we want to show our child that they are loved no matter what, right? We can, instead of no questions asked, right? We are actively listening to our children, right? We're actively listening. We're curious. We're open. We're hearing the words that they're saying. We're trying to understand where they're coming from when they're behaving a certain way that seems like it's off. But why? Right? We're always in question mode, always seeking to understand, and also understanding that we don't know everything that there is about parenting. We don't know everything about our child. We're really wondering why, you're having these big feelings and emotions. We're coming to this, to this challenge without judgment, kind of as like an open blank book, seeking to understand, seeking to really connect, right? Rather than the relationship being based in fear, like in a power in a power pattern. We want our relationship and respect to be based in love, to be based in understanding, right? You respect me and I respect you because you feel safe, heard, and loved. I think people that we really truly respect are people that have given us the space to be ourselves, that have made us feel safe. And so I really respect them because I see them acting within their integrity. I see them, I don't see them manipulating. I don't see them trying to coerce or, be in power over someone else. So I really respect them. And we want to create that with our children. We can create that with our children, right? By showing them respect, which means I'm not trying to parent over you. I'm not trying to manipulate you. I'm not trying to bribe you. I am I am respectful of you. I am respectful of you as a human being and as a person, and kind of like an equal. We're not equals in the terms of, yes, it's a parent child relationship. So, parent is an adult, there is more power there. We are, it is our choice how the relationship will go. It's not up to our children. It's really, truly up to us. And rather than having indirect communication, right, we want to have direct communication with our children. We want to be really clear about how we feel in any moment, what our intentions are, what do we need, what are options of solutions for conflicts that we're going through, right? And not having control, but rather I'm not forcing you to do what I need you to do. I'm knowing as a parent that I don't need to use coercion. I don't need to use manipulation, bribes, or threats. They deplete my energy. I don't feel good and you don't feel good. Parents don't feel good after they use those tactics. They might feel more in control, but they don't feel good and more connected with our children. And furthermore, a lot of times our children don't end up actually, it might work once, twice, or 3 times, but after that, like, they're bored of the bribe. You need to move on to something bigger and better, of course. And that's not really building a communication. That doesn't mean that our child is really, a great listener, or is cooperating with us, or trusting us, or respecting us, right? So as a parent, I want to be really clear on what my expectations are. And that's a really big part of creating healthy boundaries, is being clear on what are our values as a family, right? And why do we need to behave a certain way? Why do we need to cooperate with each other? So as a parent, we want to have direct communication, right? I'm communicating with you clearly and directly about what is happening, where we're going and what we need to do and why we need to do it. So this week we spoke about these 2 parenting patterns, the empowered pattern and the power pattern. And I ask you this week to really start to look inside of yourself, as you're parenting, and ask yourself, where is this coming from? And is the mode I'm using right now based in the power pattern, or is it based in the empowerment pattern? What is my goal right now? And then how can I reframe my goal so that it is one that is building connection with my children? Next week, we can learn deeper how to use the empowerment pattern, and also how to notice when we're using the power pattern and what we can do about it. Thank you so much for joining this week, and I will see you next week.